and get ready for the raw, honest truth about what it takes to succeed in business. I met this woman, oh my gosh, I can't even remember. It's been at least 3 or 4 years, and we started out working together and we became fast friends, and we are even family today. And so, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest, Dr. Sajay Price.
Dr. Sajay Price is a best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur. She is the owner of Priceless Planning LLC, the parent company for multiple brands, the founder of Speak Loud Incorporated, a youth-based nonprofit organization, and creator of Rise and Shine Jamaica Expo. She has collaborated with brands such as Rollout Magazine and MTV. Additionally, she has helped over 25 individuals become best-selling authors and has worked with businesses in the U.S., Canada, Africa, and the Caribbean to improve their business operations.
Welcome, Sajay.
I am so happy to be here right now.
Listen, we are excited to have you here. This has been a long time coming, and finally, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great. I'm doing really well. I'm excited. This is like one of my favorite interviews that I've done in a long time. Like, it's something that I've been looking forward to. So I'm glad to be here.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that. You know how we do, like in our own private conversation. So it's going to be just like that. Forget our people watching. Well, we won't forget that they're watching, because we will engage with the audience. We will have a Q&A about the last 5 or 10 minutes of the broadcast, but we're going to dig right on in and get to it. So we just heard from your intro video that you are an award-winning entrepreneur, a multiple best-selling author who also helps other people tell their stories and become best-selling authors. Yeah. You are an international success woman. Let's talk about your journey.
Think about it.
So when we met, you were not Dr. Sajay Price just yet. No, where were you when we met, and what were you going through? What were you doing?
When we met, it was around 2017, I would say, and I was just Sajay Price. I was finishing up my doctoral studies. I had Priceless Planning at the time. I had Speak Loud, and I was literally just wanting to put out a book. That was just my intention. So yeah, that's where I was. And then since then, I have created a few more brands, help others become authors, best-selling authors. I have worked with clients I did a whole expo in Jamaica. I've worked with clients in Botswana, Nigeria, Trinidad, and I've done all those things and more. All those things and more.
Yes, you have done a lot, my dear. So you have your doctoral degree in what, and what was that journey like to get there?
So I have my doctoral degree in conflict analysis and resolution, and I focus on organizational conflicts, which is where I get to use a lot of my planning and organizing skills at, especially when it comes to business. And the journey to get there was rough. It was intense. I did not know that I was going to make it through. There were many times like I literally was like, no, I'm not going to make it. It was a process. Like on graduation date, I cried because it was that intense, knowing like having to quit a job to complete my dissertation, or having to deal with family debts. At the time, I dealt with depression and having my anxiety being triggered all while going through the doctoral program. Like I went through an entire depression episode. So I definitely did not expect that I was going to make it through, but God is good.
Yes, he is all the time. So you talked about some of the things that you had to deal with on your journey to becoming Dr. Sajay Price. And then you do this dissertation, and like I was a part of your surveyed audience, and I don't know how you did it. Like you were digging deep in the well for some information, but I love that you decided to give a voice, a powerful voice to millennials,
Yeah.
because there's this idea of who millennials are and what they're interested in or not interested in. And so you really have changed the game and the narrative about what it's like to be a professional millennial today and also a business owner. So talk to us a little bit about why that was important for you to change the narrative of what millennials are perceived to be.
Absolutely. So it was important for me because I noticed a lot of times individuals would say, "Oh, millennials are lazy. They're lazy, lack ambition, all these things." So my dissertation allowed for me to focus on basically a comparison, a contrast and comparison of millennials and Generation X and how they operate within their companies. So really unveiling the truth of what really happens and being the first of that study to ever be developed. It was very intense because I was going. Most research you'll go after prior research, so you have something to follow up on. But my research was the first of its kind. So it was important, one, because I wanted to create the voice and show that I'm a millennial, and so that us millennials are not just the stereotypes that are placed within us. And with that, also running a company while trying to complete the dissertation was extremely crazy. It came through a lot of like strategic and being organized. So like I knew on Mondays, this is what I'm doing. On Tuesdays, and this is what I'm doing. Every single day of the week, I had something specific to do, something specific to focus on. My family would tell you, like, if you called her on Wednesday and said, "Hey, let's go here," she'll tell you she can't go. And I was that strict on myself in making sure that I'm structured and being organized. So it was intense, for sure.
And how long was that process for you? Like, how long did it take for you to, from beginning to end, to even get to the dissertation piece and then actually walk the stage and receive your degree?
Sure. So it took me 2 years. I wanted it to take me one, but God had other plans. So it took me 2 years, and it still wasn't a long time. But it took me about 2 years to complete.
And you're relatively young. So I want people to understand, like, it's not a common thing to see someone your age, and you've been a doctor, you've had your doctorate degree for a few years, a couple of years now. You're really young. So what, I mean, like, did you start college at 16? Like, what's going on?
I knew that no matter which way life took me, I wanted to be finished. It was either getting a PhD or going to law school. And either way, I knew I wanted to be finished by 30. So the fact that I walk across the stage literally at 29 was just crazy. And that was like, yes, I finally did exactly what I said that I was going to do. So I did it at 30. And I mean, it has its pros and cons with having a doctoral so young, where sometimes some peers or the experts in the field may not look at you as credible, or they may want you to build that credibility. But I think I've figured out my way and learned how to master and show my expertise. And plus, I have a track record. So, yeah.
Yes, you do. Listen, you guys, so Jay is no joke. When I tell you, like, she is structured and organized and on point with her systems, and when she sets her mind to do something, sis does it. Like, but I love her because for many reasons, but one is usually when you think of someone who's very structured and organized, you think that they're really stiffy and stiffy, stuffy, and stiff, and just like really rigid. And she's not that. When Jay and I first met and she became a client, we were working on building her personal brand. And one of the first things that she said to me when I was talking to her about what her concerns were, because she already had a successful business as a business consultant with Priceless Planning, but now she wanted to focus on putting herself at the forefront. That's what Beauty Behind the Brand is all about. It's taking those powerhouse women who are hidden figures and bringing them into the spotlight so that we can learn more about them, their brilliance, their genius, and their stories. And so her thing to me, she was like, look, I don't want to have to get rid of my purple hair. She was like, I have natural hair. I'm a Black woman working with corporations. I'm a Black woman working with corporations with natural hair. I'm a Black woman working with corporations with natural purple hair. And what I said to her was like, have you seen any of my pictures on social media? I am known for changing the style of my hair and my look quite often. And so I just wanted to reassure her that she didn't have to give up who she was to be the face of her brand and build this powerhouse brand. And I'm so grateful that she said yes, because listen, sis is out here winning, winning, winning. A little birdie told me that some point in this episode, this broadcast, you got some things to share with us, but I'm gonna let you let us know when you're ready to do that.
Oh, anytime. So I'll share now since we're here, right?
Oh, you ready? Okay. All right.
What happened was, right? The non-professional, the non-doctoral part of me. So what happened is that basically at the end of this year, I want to say in fall of 2020, I'll be releasing my second book by the name of Chasing Rainbows. That is my surprise. I didn't even tell
Can you repeat it for us, because the sound was a little distorted and I don't want anybody to miss out on this tea. So what are you?
So I'll be releasing my second book called Chasing Rainbows. And it has to do with being a faith-based entrepreneur and my journey and how literally how I changed the trajectory of my business when I decided to hand it over to God and mind my business. Yeah, so I'll be talking about that in the book. So it's called Chasing Rainbows.
And it's just you, right? No co-authors?
All no co-authors, just me. So it's a lot. It's a lot of good stuff. So that's definitely coming out fall of 2020. Yeah. I would give an exact date, but I know it's going to be between October and November for sure.
I'm so excited. That is good news, ma'am. Listen, you've been.
I didn't tell you before the broadcast because I was like, I want to surprise her.
I'm so proud of you. The premise of Beauty Behind the Brand is not only, shining the spotlight on powerhouse women who are just brilliant and do amazing things, but it's also, like we say all the time, it's about getting really real, honest, being super transparent, vulnerable, unfiltered, and uncut. It is not all rainbows, right? When you're talking about chasing rainbows, it's not all peaches and cream. So
it is not. Trust me.
We're going to get into some present day stuff, but let's go back a little bit and share with us your journey to getting here. Like, who is Sajay? Not Dr. Sajay Price, but who is Sajay, and what are some of those things that you've had to overcome personally to get to where you are today? Share your
where do we start, right? So, I've constantly found that my life has been one of, you get over one thing, there's something else. You get over one thing, there's something else. And literally, I can even go back to all the way from when I was living in Jamaica as a child, where, I've seen where my mom struggled to take care of us, or where she's had to go to Food for the Poor to get food for us just to eat, or we couldn't afford our school tuition, or she had to leave us with family and friends while she come to the US and work, to even going to college and having, literally, I remember one time I borrowed money from my roommate to pay my tuition. I don't even know if she remembers, but that was one story. I've had to work 2 jobs and go to college. It's just one thing after the other. And I think that some of us as individuals, we operate better under pressure. And I think that's it's not an intentional thing for me, but I feel like perhaps God knows that that's my sweet spot, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there a time, like during that process, where you really doubted God? Like, I know that, and we're going to get more into that here in a minute. Your faith is everything. Your faith in God is everything. What was that journey with your faith like? to that point? Like, how did you get to a place of believing despite what you were seeing?
I would say last year was my toughest year. I don't know what happened. Like, I literally just thought that was 2019. Like, 2019 was my 2020, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I was going to die because I was literally in and out of the hospital several times. I had to receive blood transfusions. I had pneumonia. I couldn't breathe. It was like, and it was double lung pneumonia. So at that point, I was like, yeah, maybe God is ready for me. So I didn't really believe that anything was there. Like, I didn't have faith, to be honest. I did not have that faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was it. I honestly thought that was it. And that was, I would say, the weakest point of my faith.
It's so crazy that you just said what you said, and that was, I didn't have faith, because you helped myself and maybe 19 other women become best-selling authors under the title of a book called Faith Forward. So how do you go from spearheading this project with a bold title to being in a season of, man, I don't even have faith. I don't know what's about to happen. God, do you even hear me? It's like that book, God is hard to hear me. How do you
know? It was almost like, here I am. I remember specifically, like, I was putting out that book with you all, and to me, it was like, God, maybe this is the last thing you want me to do. And I know it could have been so dramatic, but I felt as if perhaps that was the last thing that God wanted me to do. And in my head, I was like, okay, God, if this is the last thing you want me to do, I'm going to do it, and I'm ready to go. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't even have words for it, because it's so crazy, because here I am gathering all these faith-based stories, and while my faith is being tested. And it was definitely a test. It was a weak point, a weak point in my life, for sure.
So let's take a pause here, because I'm sure that there are people listening. Like, I'm looking at some of the comments here that are showing up, because we are also streaming on Facebook, in addition to Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. What do you say to the person who is going through their season right now and they just don't see a way out? What do you have to say to them? How do you encourage them to hold on and just continue to push through and have the faith that they're going to come out on the other side of this?
You know, what really helped me in that particular season was, I didn't have the strength to pray, but I had a lot of individuals who gathered around me and prayed for me. Like, I could not find the words. I remember one of my friends calling me, and she's just talking. I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to pray. And in that moment, I didn't know how to pray. I was on the hospital bed, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I had no words. And she was there for me, and she literally prayed. So for me, it was important, and I found it extremely important, even in today's, since after I got over that, to have a strong community of individuals that's going to be there for you. And whether it's prayer or just somebody to vent to and listen to, but to have that support system.
I'm taking it in because I know some people will say, like, oh, that's easier said than done. What if they don't have a support system? You know, what do you do when you're feeling like you're on this journey alone, and you have all of these big dreams and goals, and you're literally in a war fighting with what you believe in and what you want to see, and this other side that's trying to eat away at everything that you believe and see. And on top of that, you don't have a community. You don't have the support that you need, like you've had. What do you recommend that people do to find a supportive community that they can be a part of so that they can get through this season in their lives?
I remember also when I was in a season where I felt like I had no community, and I asked God to send me people that would be there for me, and I never knew why I was asking for that, thinking about it now. But it's another story of God knowing what we need before we ask for it, because looking back now, that was actually before all of that, and I never knew why I was asking God for that. But I remember just feeling like alone, especially on my business journey, and not really having anyone around and asking God to send people. So, one, I believe in prayer and asking God to send people. If you don't have a community, asking. You can also ask individuals that you know if there's any support groups or anything like that to deal with all that you're going through. You can also, there's tons of Facebook groups as well that you can also research, reach out to, see if you like, if you don't like, you leave, something like that. But I feel like in today's day and age, there are some sort of support groups. There are tons of hotlines as well. And sometimes it just takes us being intentional and asking for that help when we need it.
I absolutely love that. And it's so true. Like, you can't let ego or pride get in the way of saying, you know what? I don't have it all together. I don't have all the answers. And yes, I need help. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong in being able to recognize that in a season where you need to be strengthened, you have the ability and the wherewithal to say, hey, I need support, and then reaching out to people to actually get that support. And I love that there's this built in community that you've created with your Faith Forward series. So, talk to us a little bit more about the Faith Forward book series, what it's about, some of the stories that were really profound to you in this series, because it's a one and a two, a volume 1 and 2 already.
Yeah,
Is there going to be a volume 3 coming?
It wasn't in my intention to even do 2, but God is always fun, right? So originally what I found was that, we know of the stories of faith within the Bible, right? We know those stories, the popular ones, we know that. But with this book, I wanted to gather modern stories of faith to show people that God still works through our adversities and issues that we face. So I figured if I gather different women, then we could have each of them speak about a specific struggle that they may have had in life and how they used faith to overcome. So showing that modern day faith. So that is what that book is about. We have done, I want to say it's about 20 or so women so far. We've done about 20 women so far. Individuals have shared stories from miscarriages to abuse to career struggles, school struggles, love life. It's drugs, all these things. And every time, when I get these stories and I'm going through the stories and organizing it and everything, I always end up crying. I end up crying because I realize that individuals are going through things, and we're all trying to make it through some sort of adversity. So I'm telling you, I always read the stories and cry because it's really remarkable to see some of the things that people have gotten through and how they're still standing today.
Yeah, and I love it. Each story is unique and it's very powerful, and it actually helps you to look at your own life. Like I always say, your story may be about you, but it's not for you. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes we can find or see ourselves in someone else's story, even if we don't have that firsthand experience that they're talking about. And Faith Forward is a great example of that, and where you can really lean in to the stories of other people. And it's not just a series of books, y'all. Each series of books that she has put her hands to are not only Amazon bestsellers, but I'm talking like number 1 and number 2 in some of the top categories. Okay.
Yeah.
So in like 3 of the 3 top categories, I know the first 2 Faith Forward volumes, like 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, it was like number 1 in 2 categories and number 2 in another in another category. So it was like 3 different categories we hit number 1 on. And it's so crazy because every time before I put out, like even when I was doing the first one, I was like, okay, God, for me, it's not about me making a bestseller. It's about me giving that accolade to the women in the book. And because I know that while I don't care for titles, I know that the world does. And so I know that as individuals, if the authors of the book know how to capitalize on the titles, then it can get them a long way. So for me, it's more so about getting the co-authors to bestseller than even worrying about myself and my name. But that's just me.
No, and that's why you continue to win. When we don't make it about us, when we realize that by showing up and serving and leading and supporting other people, the win comes for us through that. It's that transfer that happens. As opposed to just focusing on yourself and saying, team me, I'm going to be the one that's going to do this. I'm going to win. And now look at you. You're going to be releasing your own book this year. And I have no doubt that you're going to experience the same success that you've helped other people experience as well. Would have been some of those life-changing comments or messages that you've received from the women who have been a part of these 2 volumes with Faith Forward? What's been the most profound one that stood out to you the most?
The story. Would you say the story? I would say when it comes to stories, there's an author in volume 1, Magda Joseph, and her story has got to be one of the ones that has made me bawl, like boohoo cried, and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying. I'm just crying. And that story has definitely like touched me the most. It's in volume 2. And it was just so much because you never know what someone is going through at all. And then also, even from the books, I've seen the co-authors have gone on to write their own books, sell their own books, or they have, or they're launching their own businesses, and just how the book really it catapults something in them to begin taking actions in their own lives to pursuing their own purposes.
I love that. And what has their experience been like? Like, I geeked out. Well, I called you. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. There's something about getting those books when you get your package of books and you get to see and experience it and feel it and touch it.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey.
No, the authors, they are all like, thank you. They can't believe how easy I made it. Like, they're all just like, thank you, and literally like in shock, like I can't believe that like this happened, and like thank you, like I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Like that's been the most common thing that I've heard is I've been wanting to do this for a long time and now I finally did it. So everyone has been honestly just thankful. Just thankful and feeling like it was all a part of their purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely boosts your credibility and authority, particularly if you are an entrepreneur, business owner, or a speaker. Like having that best-selling title attached, even if you don't get into titles and don't care about them, it elevates you to a whole other level in the eyes of other people, and opens the doors for endless opportunities. So, but I don't want people to get mistaken and think that you only support women in telling their stories and that they're only faith-based stories. Yes. Y'all, she dropped a bomb on us last month with a new co-author project, and to see it unfold, to think about the conversation that we had several years ago about your vision for doing this, and then to see it come to fruition. Come on and talk to us about what this project is and what it was like working with this new group of people to tell their stories.
Sure. So that book in particular is called Stereotypes of the Black Male, Changing One Narrative at a Time. when I put the book, well, first of all, I had this idea for the book since 2014 or 13. I wrote it down and said, one day I'm going to do this book. I didn't have a clue on how it was going to come about. I didn't have the logistics for it. I literally only had the name. So I wrote the name down, and then I started working on it and gathering different men, recruiting different men to share their stories last year. I started doing that, and we put the book out. And I was a bit hesitant because I'm like, okay, it's Corona season. Corona, the world's upside down, and Corona is here, and maybe people weren't buying. We weren't sure. So spoke to all the authors. We decided to put it out there in the world. We put it out, and literally, like the following week, a whole bunch of literally the world caught on fire again from all of the racial uprising and everything that started happening. So it was crazy on the timing, and that allowed the book to stay. Look at my notes here. To stay as the #1 new release book for 2 weeks. After being released, and it also hit #1 in discrimination and racism, civil rights and liberties, ethic and national biographies, and African American studies. And the amount of downloads, purchases, I know that one of the authors told me he had a ex NFL player buy $1,000 worth of copies of the book.
Wow.
And I was wow. I've had multiple people tell me individuals have done bulk order of the books. I look at the downloads, and it's way within the first month, it was definitely over 300 people. So what I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. It is crazy. I don't even know how it works. It's crazy.
It's just I don't know how it works. No, it really is, because again, I have the fortune and blessing of being able to have a front seat to your journey. This, we could share a lot of different stories, but one that stands out to me was, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, and you all were having, Sajay is based in Southern Florida, and it was hurricane season.
Yes.
And you were really torn. Talk to us a little, you went through something, right? And it was this thing of, I feel like that was the moment where the light bulb went off for you from my seat, right? About leaning into your faith and trusting God. Because everything about what was going on was telling you to do what?
To leave. It was such a crazy season, because that was one of the most craziest hurricane season that we've had in a long time. And I think that was the same time Houston or Texas, different parts of Texas, had the hurricanes and the flooding. And I was there trying to get my family and friends, find help on Facebook and send over it. And then they said South Florida is getting a hurricane, and they got all the way up to a Category 5. And I'm bawling, and I'm like, no, Elle, I'm leaving. I am going somewhere. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not staying here in Florida. Right. And I'm getting ready to leave my family. They're probably watching this laughing. But, you're right. You're absolutely right, because I had to learn how to trust God. Yeah. I remember my sister, one of my sisters, I don't know if it's my older one or younger one, spoke to me about trusting God and prayed to me so I can calm down, because I was really having really bad anxiety about it. And what was so funny, I don't even think I told you, was that when the hurricane came, a lot of in our complex, almost all the buildings lost light except our building. Trees fell on top of cars, everything. People lost light, water in our, I can understand if it's down the road or something, but in our very same apartment complex, people lost light, and ours was still on.
Crazy.
Talk about
significant though.
Oh my God.
The lights were still on. Hello. That's a message. I don't know if y'all caught it, but I definitely did. And then to go from there to helping men and women to share these incredible stories that they probably otherwise would never have done. And how it's so important that even with your latest project, with the men and Black men in particular, giving them a voice, because oftentimes they are, we as women are overlooked, right? But giving Black men a space to show up and to really tell their truths, like that is so powerful. Where on earth did that idea come from?
God, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. But you're absolutely right, because one of the things I felt like the most was that we hear the multiple stories of women, of Black women, and how we're doing our thing, and we have our support group, and we can find our circles and we're making it work. And then I ran into a situation where I consistently saw, like, my brothers, especially, like, I would listen to their issues, or I would see the different things that they're going through. And I noticed that they don't often have their stories told. And so that was also a part of it, because it's the truth. Black men, you don't really hear their stories unless it's related to police brutality. Then you hear their stories, unless they're in some sort of, media outlet for doing something crazy. And for me, I just wanted to show the world that, not like there's good and bad people, and there's good women, there's bad women, there's good men, and there are bad men. But it doesn't mean that individuals don't change, and it doesn't mean that their story shouldn't be shared.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's some pretty dope fellas in there. I happen to know one, my husband and I, he is like a brother to us, Anthony Hendricks. And I knew that it was time for him to tell his story. And so I'm super grateful that you created the opportunity for him to do just that, and then come out the gate as a bestseller. And speaking of best-selling authors, somebody else, y'all shared space in the same category with someone. Who was that?
I did share space. Was it hold on, I think if I'm remembering correctly, we were space in there with Michelle Obama.
Boom, there you go. Because
I remember I was like looking at it, I was like, okay, how can I either get to number one and beat Michelle Obama and just have that picture, or I was being so petty, or can I at least have she be number one, I number two, and just take that picture? So yeah, we were in the same category with Michelle Obama. She was number one, clearly, and we were like number 5 at the time, moving up in the ranking. But yeah, I was like, I got it. But dope. It's Auntie Michelle.
Auntie Michelle, right? That's so dope. Like, you have that bragging right, so to speak, even if it was like it's top 5, still top 5, right? Still in there. I love it. What is next for that series? Are you going to do another one? Like, what do you have planned for this book series for the fellas?
For the fellas, our goal right now is to really make it into a documentary. So I have been networking, praying. We've been in touch with a few individuals, so we're just waiting to hear back. And, just in case Netflix is listening, anybody, then you feel free to email me, shameless plug, hi@sajayprice.com, DM me, something, find me, because we're looking to make the book into a documentary. That is really what I would like to do. I know that I've seen stuff about Black men on TV, but it's mostly about police brutality, if that makes sense. Something had to happen where the police was involved and not. So I would definitely be interested in showing, beside the stereotypes that are created by the police, what other areas that are stereotypes that Black men are facing. So the men talk about being disabled and Black, careers and being Black, being a mentor in the community and being Black, and even about finding love and being Black. So how can we talk about these other conversations as well in the mainstream media and not just about police brutality? Because there's so much that we're trying to unravel right now. Not saying that all is not important. Everything that we're going through right now is important and is relevant, but just also to get some of the conversations going so we know long term what are some other issues as well that we need to have resolved in the ton of work that we have to do.
And it's coming.
Yeah.
It is coming. It's going to happen. You continue to show up and serve and lead. And I absolutely love it. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked about your journey to getting here and some of the things that you've had to overcome. And we've also talked about that support. What made you decide to say, I'm ready to build my personal brand, right? And then get out there. And what was your experience like with us working together to help create this space for you and where you're at now? Like who does that? You went from being a business consultant to like behind to bam, I'm here, I'm shining, baby, and you're gonna get all of this.
Literally. The experience was wonderful. That is no doubt. I'm not just saying that because like, oh, I know her. Like, no, the experience was wonderful. Like every single thing that we created together, we developed is a full out brand, not just about, creating a logo or colors, but like I have things that I still use, whether it's used in the mainstream or behind the scenes. But it's created and I use it. Like we like literally everything from my speaker kits that I've used to pitch and get speaking engagements to literally even my what I call it, my templates or my background for my videos, like all these stuff, like I use it. And so I think with working with you, it was remarkable because you were able to understand what I was trying to develop and take it and interpret it, if that makes sense, because my structured brain doesn't work on the creative aspect. And I've recognized that to mind my business when it comes to certain things. So I gave that to you because that's the creative part.
Yes. And I love that. I think one of the very first things that we worked on was you had an interview, like a major media feature on iHeartRadio. And that was for your first book, where you became the first time you became a best-selling author, and that was 20 Women by Saba Tekel. And just get like seeing you shine. Like I knew what we were doing behind the scenes to get you ready, but then actually seeing you, and they live streamed the whole thing. And I need y'all to understand, like this woman was not trying to be in front of anybody's camera. She just was not. Now she has a whole entrepreneurial series that she does on IGTV every week. And it's just been incredible to see the journey and the growth. And I don't take it lightly. I thank you for trusting me to help uncover, because it was already in you. Like that people don't get, it's not that when you work with someone, it's not that they're teaching you something new. It's that they're uncovering what's already in you. You already had this powerful message. You already had these incredible stories and these gifts and this brilliance that is your own. And sometimes we just need someone to help uncover what that is. And then show us the way to shine it. And it's much like what you were talking about when we were talking about having a community. When you're struggling and going through something, you can't be afraid to say, help me, I need help. And that's a message that I really want to share with our viewers today, is because we see the glory, right? We see the shine, we see all of the wins and successes, but not too often do we get to hear the behind the scenes story and the journey and what it takes to get there.
And
without hiccup.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that's literally all that I'm writing about in the book, like the entire behind the scenes journey that people don't know unless you're my family. Like when individuals see folks show up on social media and we are a particular way, like literally you guys have no clue what is happening in the background. Like It could be team craziness, it could be client craziness, it could be business craziness, especially in the first few years where you're just trying to figure out everything. It could be having to stay up late all night to prepare a proposal. It could be so many things, but I'm telling you guys, like, literally business is more than just creating an Instagram page and thinking that you're going to sell, because it is not like that. Having a personal brand is not just about the colors and the logo. There are other things, whether or not you work with corporate clients or small business clients, because I work with both, and they still research you and look at your personal brand. Like, they are going to ask you, what is your website? They are going to Google you, just like how you would Google someone. If you're going to work with them, they're going to Google you and check you out. So having that personal brand developed, even if you have a company that you're not the face of, is still necessary. It's completely necessary.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of times we do it backwards. Well, I don't want to say backwards, but we do it a different way, and it makes it harder for people to come out, right? And so it's like, build your personal brand first, and then your business brand. Because here's the thing: your personal brand, while it will continue to evolve, it's harder to get people to go with you on a journey when you're shifting your speed in business, right? Because you're not necessarily doing all the things that you used to before as a business consultant. Maybe some of those things you're doing today, but then you've added a whole other piece to your business, which is incredible, and your personal life definitely drives that.
Absolutely.
So listen, we've got some comments and questions our audience that we are going to get into. Let's see. I see you got some fam here representing. So hey, there is quite a few. So we're going to get into it. But what do you want people to know about Sajay today?
I would want people to know today that I am hardworking. I feel like sometimes, like, I am a hidden gem that people look over because I don't have the 10K followers. But most importantly, that I'm faith-based, and that everything that I do, while I'm not perfect, I try to strive for integrity. So you'll never hear about me scamming someone, because before I do that, I will give them back their money. So every single thing I do, from how I deliver, how I show up, I try to do that with excellence and integrity. So those, I would say, that's something that I want people to know. I think that's important in today's day and age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a comment actually from one of our producers, who is Nancy. And Nancy also is a faith-based entrepreneur. I actually had someone say to me recently, like, a lot of your guests are faith-based, they're Christians. And it's not a Christian show, right? But I am a Christian. I'm a faith-based woman and entrepreneur. And so your fruit shows up.
Unintentional, but it's going to happen. Yeah.
Yes, it's unintentional, but it's going to happen. But I absolutely love that the majority of my guests are in that vein. They show up in that vein, because we don't see enough of it, especially in business, right? Mm-hmm. And so, even with Nancy and saying, yes, faith-based, God, I'm here for it. Can't wait to get your book. When we show up in our brilliance authentically, there are people who are waiting for us. This is proof. Like,
exactly.
You don't need to hide who you are. You don't need to be ashamed of what you believe, because your people will show up for you at the point that you show up for them. Right. So I absolutely love that. She also talked about how inspiring you are. She has her MBA, and she can't even think about doing the work to get a doctorate degree.
You can do it, Nancy. You can do it. Yes. It's hard, but you can do it.
Yes. I think this is Regine Williams. She is already ready for your book, Chasing Rainbow. Okay, we have a great question from Regine. This is good. How did you restore your faith? That's a great question.
I would say that I restored my faith through getting deeper in the word. So I started this thing where I started to, well, not thing, but I started to have daily devotionals or nightly devotionals. One time a day, I tried to commit myself to giving God um 10 to 15 minutes at least, doing some sort of Bible plan on the U version app, I think that's what it's called. So that really helped a lot in doing the different Bible study plans. That's been the main thing. And I it's so funny that now I enjoy doing it, and when I don't do it, I actually feel like I miss that time with God. So I intentionally created space and time for God.
I love that. And we have another question from a viewer. What, and it's Davisha. Hey, girl. What has kept you going? These are great questions, y'all. Keep them coming. We have room for a couple more.
So what have kept me going? It has definitely been knowing what my family have been through and trying to provide an opportunity for us to get out of certain situations and just really creating that foundational basis that we need for generational wealth. So that's definitely something that has kept me going, and of course God. But that's something, the mission to pay off Sally Mae with one check, truth moment, I would love to do that. I would love to buy my mom a house. So all of these different tasks would definitely be a few of the reasons why I kept on going.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I adore you. There's so much more that we could talk about, but we have run out of time. These episodes go so fast. I'm telling you, I always have this idea of what I want to do. And we don't script any of the questions. It is really organic conversation. And I'm very adamant about continuing in that vein. And so sometimes you don't get to ask all the things that you're thinking about beforehand. But where can people find you, and know where to purchase your books, what you have coming up next? Like, what do you want the people to know? This is your stage. Have at it.
Sure. So for one, you can find me on any social media at Dr. Sajay Price. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Dr. Sajay Price. You can also visit my website at sajayprice.com. You can email me at hi@sajayprice.com. If you are not yet ready to work with me one-on-one, then I also have trainings available, different resources available. So yeah, you guys can literally just send me a message, and you can also sign up for my mailing list, which is the links are in my bio. That's also to be first updated about the book and how you can pre-order